What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Metalcore Nerds. I am your host, Sean Mott. It's the Hawkeye finale. This is going to come out on Christmas Eve. What a joyous time to be a nerd. No Way Home's still all probably accompanying all of our brain cells, but here for the last time for now, he'll be back. He'll be back. My man, my co-host, my partner, Austin. How you doing
Oh,
today?
I'm gonna tear up, man. That's what I've been working for. This is big. You're Hawkeye, and I'm shifting this.
Yes.
Yes. Well, welcome back.
Exactly.
I'm sad. I'm very sad that this show's over. This has been fun.
Yeah.
This has been a fun show to watch.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch. It's been a pleasant surprise. I mean, with the Matt Fraction run and everything like that, I had some high hopes, especially after seeing some of the trailers, and be like, oh wow, they're kind of digging pretty deep into this stuff. So I had some I don't know, I wouldn't say there were high expectations, but it was probably my least anticipated of all of the series that got announced for this year, and it ended up being probably my favorite. I've been conflicted about it. We'll dive into it more, but I think I would say I liked the series overall maybe better than Loki, but Loki's finale was much stronger for me. So it's like a weird, I don't know. But I was trying to do my new ranking of the MCU, and kind of like Loki, Hawkeye, and WandaVision are all kind of next to each other. And I'm like, I don't know how to order them. I feel like I need to watch through them all or something to decide. I've even been looking at the ranking. I'm like, man, I just need to do a full rewatch to kind of see where things really lie, because I've noticed that a lot of Phase 4 stuff has crept up pretty high. There's like 3 Phase 4 things, or maybe
Recency
4 Phase
bias.
4 things in my top 10, and I do
Yeah.
think a lot of them would stay. No Way Home took my number 1 spot, and I really think it deserves that spot after the second viewing. I kind of want to watch Endgame and No Way Home back to back. I don't know why I want to hurt myself that bad, but I want to kind of experience it, I guess, to see how they feel like right next to each other. I don't know if I'll actually do it, but I kind of want to try that eventually to
I,
see how it does. But
I have a feeling that we're gonna know a lot more about what we think about these shows after we see the Multiverse of Madness. I think Doctor Strange 2 is gonna really inform specifically WandaVision and Loki. Like that
Yes.
show, that movie will inform kind of what we think about those shows, depending on what happens with Loki in Multiverse of Madness, if he even shows up, but even like Wanda obviously being very, very involved in that movie.
Yeah, it's
And
almost
same
like
thing
the
with Hawkeye.
trilogy.
Yeah, well, same thing with Hawkeye. I think that'll change once we realize like what they're going to do with Echo and Kingpin and all the different characters and threads that they like started in that. And we probably will look back at these shows being like, oh crap, like they did a ton of legwork. Very early on in Phase 4 that are now paying dividends, and just all the different characters that they're working on and stuff. Even Black Widow, like Black Widow is now a more rewarding view.
I was just gonna say that
what we've seen with Yelena,
like without the best part of this episode, which we'll obviously get to, it was because of what happened in Black Widow. There's no way the moment would have hit. But it's also like the same thing with Infinity War, or the same thing with Endgame, or the same thing with anytime we've seen Clint and Natasha go together. It was all like a big culmination. Like this movie connected with other movies way more than I ever thought it would. It's kind of crazy the way it kind of weaves in and out of the whole like thing of the MCU. Before we get into Hawkeye, I do want to talk about things we have watched in the past week. We haven't really done that, other than we talked about No Way Home last week, which obviously was the big one. You know, everyone was talking about that. And also another No Way Home. I was on the Effin' Nerds podcast with Lance from Comic Book Keepers and Chris from the Geek Peak Pod. And that dropped today or yesterday as you're now listening to this. But go on the search out Effin' Nerds. You can go to our social media. I've shared it from there. I've shared the link in the group and everything like that. But we did a 3-hour-long podcast on No Way Home. And it was a lot of fun to record with these dudes. I've become like really good friends with these guys over the past few months, and the conversation was really, really awesome. So if you like No Way Home and you like hearing me talk about that shit, you got a lot of hours with me talking about Spider-Man if you want to check that out.
Yeah, everybody just go support Sean so we can keep doing Metalcore Nerds. So we just keep this thing going. It's just awesome because Spider-Man is like so like I keep talking about how it's just kind of invaded the culture, and it's just really fun. Like more and more people are watching it, and I'm getting all these messages. It's just like, I just saw Spider-Man. Oh my gosh, that was amazing, and it's just really fun. And I think the fact that they're like making so much money, it's just really good, especially for Tom Holland. We're gonna see more of him, and that's, I don't know, like that's really cool. And I'm stoked to be a part of, like, been a part of that journey. I saw somebody wish that they could like have a Doctor Strange spell to where they could go back and watch that movie for the first time. I don't know where that was on Twitter, but like,
I kind of do too, because that was
have the joy of seeing that again.
It was such a moment to watch that movie and see what it gave us, and it's a really special movie, honestly. Like it's crazy that it exists. I keep telling, like, friends and I keep talking about that. Like, I can't believe this movie is real and it happened, and we watched it, and it's that good. It's insane. The fact that I just, like, it's crazy that some people are like, yeah, Marvel's kind of in like a lull, and I'm like, what? I was like, Phase 4, even if you haven't liked everything Phase 4 that's come out, I'm sure you've liked something, and it's been really awesome. Like I said, like a lot of shit that came out in Phase 4 has been some of my favorite Marvel stuff, and that's a big deal because there's a lot of Marvel movies I love. So the fact that they're continuing to up the ante and put out quality content, whether, you know, some maybe misses for people and things like that, like not everything is going to connect with everyone. It's impossible. It's utterly impossible. Like as much beloved as Endgame is, there's people that don't like Endgame. It's a thing. Like, people don't like the Russo brothers movies. I think you're fucking insane, but there is people like that, you know? So it's just crazy that they're like, yeah, Marvel's kind of on the downward spiral. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And they just put out a movie that made more domestically in one weekend than any other movie all year. So yeah, totally, totally doing terrible.
Those people just don't enjoy nice things. Okay, so
I guess haters, man.
Sorry, nice is fun.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I like enjoying things. I don't know, but awesome. What did you watch this week? What did you check out this week?
So I do owe everybody this favor, and thank you. You're welcome in advance, by the way. If you're not watching How To with John Wilson on HBO, you are missing out on one of the most bizarre TV shows that I have ever experienced. It's existential and wild and just the craziest thing you'll ever watch. And basically, John Wilson, it's like a pseudo documentary where he just walks around New York trying to kind of solve problems, like how to find your parking spot, or how to enjoy wine, how to dispose of batteries. And the second season is currently going on on HBO, and it's just crazy. Like, do yourself a favor and check it out. The episodes are like 30 minutes long. And it's just a really, really cool show. Produced by Nathan Fielder of Nathan For You. So it's got a little bit of that, like, you know, oddball comedy. And yeah, it's weird. Maybe it's not for everybody, but I absolutely adore that show. And I will stick on HBO Max because I went to the movies yesterday morning and I saw Matrix Resurrection.
You got to let me know how it is. I've heard mixed things from many people.
I think the biggest crime that was committed is that the movie was kind of boring.
Really?
It's 2.5 hours. And as opposed to Spider-Man, where that just went by in a flash, you definitely felt that this movie was 2.5 hours long. All that to say, I think I kind of loved it because it's really weird. And what they do with this kind of like reboot or retread of the Matrix is like kind of rad. But then at the same time, there were just some lulls. So here's my take: is the Matrix is just a very overly serious movie. Like every one of those movies, they take every conversation really seriously. Yes. And everybody's really thinking about everything they're saying and all this stuff. And at some point, we're like more in the Marvel world where it's like, oh, you guys could have had a little bit of humor in here. And there are some kind of funny scenes in the movie. Everything gets so serious in every conversation, and every conversation that's had between different characters, they're pretending to be like philosophical and whatnot. So anyways, I'm very, very curious what you're going to think about it. And I know I've seen a lot of people talking about how they hated the film and, you know, are pissed that it got made. all that kind of stuff. I don't know what my take specifically on it is, other than it's kind of boring, and that made me sad.
Interesting, because I just watched Reloaded and Revolutions last weekend, and I liked Reloaded more than I remembered, and I didn't like Revolutions as much as I remembered.
Revolutions kind of sucks.
It's as soon as you said boring, I was like, Revolutions was kind of boring, in all honesty. And it's weird though, because the more I think about it, it's not that I didn't like the movie. It's just there's little to no Matrix in it, and the Matrix stuff kind of sucks. And I think that's why it's a big bummer, because the Zion stuff is actually kind of interesting, and like the fight with the Sentinels at the end is really cool. And like the Niobe and Morpheus like trying to get back to Zion is pretty cool and everything like that. And the weird horror thing with Bane and Agent Smith and Neo is kind of like, it's like fine. I don't like love it or hate it really. But I was just like, this movie, and that movie's like 2 hours long, and that one felt long. Like I was like, this, and Reloaded is just like, it's more of an action movie than kind of like a philosophical like journey that like the first one is, where it's like a mix of, you know, philosophy and action and shit like that. It's supposed to be super existential, and you know, like everyone, the cave and all that shit. Like people go on deep dives of like all of the brain behind the Matrix, and like honestly, it is like an insanely smart movie. And I do think the first Matrix is still like a perfect movie. I love that movie.
Definitely.
The second one is different, but it's cool, and it kind of adds to the Matrix. You get more of the Zion and like what's really going on in the real world and shit like that. And the action is dope. But then, when you get to the third one, you're like, and I also remembered it way differently because I thought the architect scene was in the third one. And I think that's why I had such a high viewpoint of the third one. And then when it happened in 2, I was like, oh, fuck. I was like,
dude, I totally would have. Yeah, I would have placed the architect scene, but he's with the key guy.
Yeah, I totally because they are kind of one movie, really.
Yeah.
Honestly, they are one movie. So I kind of just placed some of the what happened where in different spots, because I think it's been a few years since I've watched the second and third one. But yeah, so
Reloaded has the whole scene at the Merovingians' palace or mansion, and that fight scene that goes straight then into the freeway sequence is so sick. Yeah, and
I was like watching the freeway. I was watching the freeway scene, and I'm like, this is so fucking dope. The fact that people hate this movie sucks. Like, I'm like, why? This movie is so badass.
Morpheus and the agent are fighting on top of the semi.
Sick. I guess there was one thing I was watching a rewatch series. It's the same. It's The Big Thing. Christian Harloff hosts it, and he did a Spider-Man rewatch, and then they just did a Matrix rewatch. And this dude Coy Jandro, who was on both, he's like awesome, super, like one of the most comic knowledge people I've ever heard on the internet in my entire life. It's like insane how much he knows about comics. But he's also like a huge Matrix fan. But they also watched the Animatrix, which I watched like half of. Honestly, it was kind of really boring to me, so I just kind of was like, I don't care about this. But there was one near the end that I didn't get to, and it was one basically where like all of them are like freeing a bunch of people in the Matrix and shit like that, which they touch on a little bit in the second one. But I kind of wish they had more of that, of like them like liberating people within the Matrix. That would have made the second one even better. Like it could have lived up to the first one in a way. And I was like, oh man, I never would have thought of that because I didn't watch that Animatrix episode. But I was like, yeah, that would have made shit way cooler if they did shit like that. If you saw more of them kind of like on this like liberation journey to like free them from the machines and shit like that. Like that would have been really cool. Like again, they touch it with that kid, and he's like, oh, you saved me, and he's like, now you saved yourself, and stuff like that. It's like a little glimpse. But if they had like a big, like that was like the big thing of it, that would have been really cool. But you know, I still like Reloaded a lot.
Revolutions has the first. You said that there's not that much Matrix in it. I thought I didn't really think about that, but they like go and save Neo from the Merovingian, and they like go into like the Hell Club and stuff, and like that stuff's really cool. But yeah, that movie just kind of gets it all gets like way too self-serious. I feel like even with the new one, they just took it way. they took that philosophical existential stuff and they like tried to make it too they just took it too seriously, which I agree with you. The first Matrix is a perfect movie. I adore that. Even the process to watching the old trilogy, like that was the first one where there was like an anime tie-in and video game tie-in that you kind of had to play to like understand
to get everything things.
And on one hand, I hate that kind of stuff because I'm just like, now in my 30s, I'm just not going to play a video game that I need to. I'll like Wikipedia and find out what I needed to know about something. But yeah, do yourself a favor and go watch Matrix Resurrection. I think that you'll find it very fascinating. But it was definitely lacking, and I'm not quite sure what their intention is. I don't know if this like launches off another sequel or trilogy or what. There's the Wachowski, Elena, and specifically in this one, I think she's credited as the director, definitely has some kind of sass and like a little bit of a middle finger towards Warner Brothers for the whole reboot culture and stuff. Watch it. I still haven't really articulated what I truly think about it. I didn't hate it. I just don't think I liked it. And so that's the kind of movie that I almost hate more than anything, because it occupies like that. It's like right on the line. Like, this movie kind of sucked, but it also is kind of pretty dope in what they did.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. I'm excited to watch it. Sam actually, she's like, I'll go see that one with you. And I didn't think she would. So I was like, okay, cool. I was like, cool.
Did you see The Green Knight? That movie is the same thing. No. That kind of occupies like both. It's like, okay, that movie was maybe really bad or it was really, really good. And I haven't quite figured out which side I'm on.
That's kind of what it's also an A24 movie like The Green Knight, but Midsummer, that's how I felt. I was like, that movie made me feel very uncomfortable, which obviously was the very big point of it. And Florence Pugh is like unbelievable in that movie. But I don't really like the movie, but I also didn't hate it. And I've seen this movie like 3 years ago or 2 years ago at this point, and I'm like, I saw it in theaters, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about it still. I still don't know how I feel about it. And it's crazy because like Hereditary, same director. I love that movie. I think that movie is fucking batshit crazy in all the best ways. But Midsummer, I'm just like, because there's no real story in it. It kind of just all happens, and then it's over. And you're like, okay.
Speaking of A24, the trailer for The Northmen came out this past week as well. Bro. And that's
holy fuck.
That movie is not going to be fun to watch.
Oh, it's going to be brutal and probably like sad and terrible. And also that Michelle Yeoh, I can't remember what it's called, but she's the movie. That's to do with multiverse.
The theory of everything at every time or whatever it was. Like,
something along those lines. Yes, that movie looks fucking dope too.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, it came up a couple times with my buddy Johnny, and we're just like, stoked about that.
Yeah, that looks crazy. A24 usually puts out pretty good shit. So
everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yes, okay, yeah. That movie looks wild. Looks fucking crazy. So I'm excited for that too. I mean, and then even on a Keanu Reeves thing, John Wick got delayed a year, which sucks. But I'm excited for that when we get to see it. You know, I mean, there's a lot going on. March, I got the Batman. That's all that matters. So cool by me.
I'm getting unreasonably hyped about that, and I probably need to like temper my expectations. But we saw Matrix in IMAX, and the trailer that's been making its rounds lately for the Batman played. And just like the score and the intensity of it in IMAX and stuff, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I can't wait for this movie.
I feel like the only way that movie can be bad is if just none of it makes sense and the story is just so messy, but I don't see that happening. Like, I just don't see it being bad in any way. It's like one of those movies where you're like, this can't be bad, right? There's no way this movie can be bad. It's like one of those situations.
I think based on what Warner Brothers is doing with that movie, just there's like a little bit of confidence. They're not a little bit. They're marketing this confidently, and I think the way that they're approaching the marketing, I think that they know that they have something special. And just the rumors of these test screenings that have come out and stuff, and people being like talking about how it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
I think Warner Brothers kind of knows, like, okay, we got a good one here. Even the way that there's like the old school red and black Warner Brothers logo and just the different stuff that they're doing with it. I think they know that it's good. So
yeah, I agree. And I guess the only other thing I watched this week is I started season 2 of The Witcher, which has been pretty tight. I'm only like 4 episodes in, but it's pretty cool. Some dope monsters. Henry Cavill being awesome.
Tell me, why should I watch that show? I haven't watched any of it.
Henry Cavill is amazing. That's why.
Okay,
that's my only
I love him.
Well, okay, so I'm gonna warn you of this, and if it's a slight spoiler, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But it's a storytelling device they do in the first season that they do not do in the second season. But if I tell you this, it might make you enjoy it better because once I figured it out, it made it much easier. So
2 timelines.
I think it's like 3 timelines at once.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 2 or 3. It might be 3, but they don't explain it at all. They kind of just do it. And then eventually you come to a point where like, oh, this has to be in the past because of what we've already seen and stuff like that. And they use it to kind of build the main characters up at the same time while showing, things in present and in the past and whatever in the in-between and shit like that. But if you don't really know, you're like, what the fuck is happening? Like, why is this happening there and this happening there? But by the end, it all kind of comes together. And then season 2 is just a straight timeline. You don't need to worry about any of that shit. But it's really cool. If you like fantasy stuff, I highly recommend it. I wouldn't say it's like a Game of Thrones vibe because it's serious, but it's not that serious, if that makes sense. I mean, it has some like funny moments, but it's more like a drama fantasy type deal. And Henry Cavill is awesome. And he's a dude that I will give him credit because he's not one of those people where it's like when I watch the Uncharted trailer and Tom Holland's on there, I'm like, you kind of just seem like Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like one of those people where it's like kind of hard to differentiate them from different roles. But Henry Cavill, he like disappears in every role, which is a very big deal and very cool that he can do those kind of things. Like when he's the Witcher, he's the Witcher. When he's Superman, he's Superman. When he's playing in like some spy movie, he's like that character. It's like they all fit in certain ways. And he is, I know nothing about the games or the books or anything like that. I just watched it because it looked cool. And it is cool. So if you've got some,
I haven't played the games.
There's one.
I haven't played the games or anything. So that's why I was like, at some point you're like, okay, do I have to commit to this like new IP that I know nothing about? And what do I need to know? So yeah, I'll check it out. I love Henry Cavill. And obviously, like I talked about it last week, I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan. So Henry Cavill showing up in the latest Mission Impossible. He's so good, and that's potentially the mustache that like tore down the DC extended universe.
It is the mustache that tore down the DC universe. But yeah, one more thing I'll say on it. It's basically he's a monster bounty hunter that also can use magic in different ways. Okay, there's like full on mages in it that are like more magically powered. He has like a few things he can do. He's not like a full-on like wizard or anything, but there's some magic he can do, but he's basically a monster bounty hunter. It's pretty fucking dope.
It took you a while to get there, but it was worth it for you to be able to say that he's a monster bounty hunter, because that's like all you need to say. I'll watch that show now. That's
true. I should have started with that. That's my bad.
No, you had to workshop the pitch a little bit, but but a monster bounty hunter with Henry Cavill. I'm down for that. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's dope. When you watch it, let me know what you think.
This whole second season is available because it's Netflix and they're the worst, right? Okay.
Correct. They're just like, here it is. Fucking take it. Whatever.
Now, welcome to the Finale Hawkeye podcast, where we talk about everything but Hawkeye for the first hour.
Hey, man, it's like, it's a pop culture podcast. We got to talk about other things. There's a lot of shit going on. You know what I mean? There's a lot of shit going on. Yeah. I like to sprinkle in some other stuff.
As we dip our toes into Hawkeye, I want to follow my comment there. I absolutely adore watching shows week to week. And
they're the best. It's the best.
I'm so angry with Netflix and the binge culture. And that's why this is so fun, is to have a show where you get to watch an episode and then you get a whole week to look forward to it. And that's why WandaVision and Loki, that's why Lost back in the day. Like I watched that show when it was airing.
Game of Thrones.
And that was just Game of Thrones. Like any of these prime, like prestige TV shows on HBO or any of those things. Like I just love watching stuff week to week, because then it builds anticipation. You kind of get into that mode where you prepare yourself to watch the newest episode. And that's the whole thing with Netflix, where it's like, well, I don't have to watch it because I know it's all there. Yeah. And I'll get to it at some point. And so Hawkeye, WandaVision, Loki, all the different Marvel shows that we got, like that was just such a rewarding year for us that we got to sit here and talk and call people and have these conversations about, oh my gosh, what about Kingpin? What are they going to do here? And so that whole thing is like the journey was the friends we made along the way kind of thing. Like, I loved Hawkeye so much, and this was just such a fun. 6 episodes, maybe not enough for the story they wanted to tell.
Maybe yes, you might be right. You might be right there. Good. Yeah, it's tough with Netflix, and you can see them. They've been kind of trying to go back on it in some ways, like the Master Universe. They did 2 parts instead of one all at once. I think there's been some other shows where they did like the first 3 episodes and they did the rest of the episodes like a couple weeks later and stuff like that. They've been kind of trying. They're like, oh fuck, week to week is the way to go. After they pretty much started binge culture, it's like their fault. Like it's their own fault. But now they're realizing when everyone else catching up in the streaming game that like, oh, week to week works way much better to keep the hype rolling for longer periods of time. And now they're like, well, we can't really go back on it, because. So I've seen ways where they've kind of tried to go back on it. I'm curious to see. Because I don't see them doing Stranger Things week to week, even though they probably should. Like they probably should release Stranger Things week to week.
Oh man,
it's their biggest
example.
Show. Yeah, they should do it week to week. But will they? I highly doubt it because people will be pissed. Because I remember when like The Boys started and these week to week shows started, people were pissed. They're like, "What the fuck is this week to week shit?" Blah blah blah. Like we binge everything, and I'm like, no. Like I like as soon as all this week to week stuff started happening with like The Mandalorian and these Marvel shows and The Boys and even Ted Lasso, I'm like, I love this way more because you look forward to it every week.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's like conversation that's happening. Like, oh my God, you see last episode? Like, what'd you think of it? Blah, blah, blah. What do you think can happen next? And everything like that. Like, it's so exciting. And when there's a binge, you can't really, because you could be like, hey, have you been watching The Witcher? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm still on season 1. They're like, well, I can't talk to you about it. It's like,
or I watched it at midnight the day it dropped, and I finished it 3 weeks ago, and like, oh, I forgot about that show already.
Yeah, I will say they do a very good job recapping things before the next season and that's another thing. You don't really retain what happens in these series because you watch it so fast. It's not like you're sitting with it, thinking about what could come next, or thinking about certain moments. You're kind of just like taking it all in at once, and that's it. And then it's kind of there, and then some things will stay, of course, like big moments, but kind of the fine details kind of get lost because you just crammed it all in at once. And then when you watch the recaps, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened. And it's like, it shouldn't be like that. You should be like, oh yeah, like I totally remember what happened last week. It was just a week ago. And I got a chance to sit with it, maybe rewatch it, something like that. I like love and hate binge stuff because sometimes it's fun to like just binge a show. But I love week to week way, way, way more. It's way more satisfying for me to kind of sit with
it. We can't have everything that we want, but I would still love for Marvel and Disney to move. I would love for them to start releasing their stuff just at like a normal freaking time. Like that would be nice.
Yeah, and it sucks for us even worse. If we wanted to stay up and watch it, we had to stay up till 3.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like. It's not even. It's like released at midnight everywhere, which would make way more sense.
I was trying to stay up for the finale, and I fell asleep at like 10:30, and like woke up the next morning and watched it. But I was like, I'm tapping out.
Yeah. There's no way. It's like one of my friends who's in Texas, which I think was only 2 hours instead of 3.
2 a.m.
2 in the morning. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna stay up and see it. And I'm like, no fucking way I'm staying up till 3 to try and watch this because I don't want to be dead tired trying to watch the conclusion of this series I've adored. It would just be dumb. Like I don't want to do that. Like midnight would be a lot more doable, but at the same time I'd rather watch it at like any other time that's earlier than midnight. Pretty much.
But that's the thing that sucks a little bit for I'm in San Diego, and so it's just like it's just late enough, but also not late enough to where you can stay up. So usually I'll like watch another show and then watch it. Cause I mean, I'm on Twitter a lot and stuff. So I do that mostly to protect myself from spoilers and whatnot. And I just, if something gets spoiled for me, then I probably am not as interested in watching it. So I'm like trying to be out there, but yeah, Boba Fett just back on the grind next week.
Yep.
Staying up till midnight.
I'll be back with another after show talking Boba Fett every week. Never stop. Well, then it'll stop because I don't know what's next after that. I guess I might do one for Peacekeeper, maybe, because there's we're probably not going to get anything Marvel till May, unless they do a show before Multiverse Madness. I don't know.
Nothing's been confirmed, huh? Yeah.
It's just the 3 shows: Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk are coming out in 2022, and that's all we know for now. Maybe we'll know in like a month or two. I really don't know. They kind of play that shit close to the vest, and then they're a month out. They're like, it's coming, and you're like, okay.
We have no confirmation of Star Wars shows either.
I think Andor and Obi-Wan are supposed to come out next year, but no idea when at all. There's been no confirmation. I'm guessing we'll get that after Boba Fett because it's like the same thing with Marvel. They don't like to promote multiple things at once, especially series. They kind of go 1 to 1. So we'll see. I don't know. Those 2 are supposedly coming next year. When? No idea. I think I saw somewhere Andor is supposed to be summer. Maybe Obi-Wan's spring. That'd be a dope if it was like early 2022. That'd be awesome.
I cannot wait. See. I'm so hyped for those.
Same. Like unbelievably hyped for either of those. Like I'm very excited to see what Obi-Wan gives us, especially. Like it's kind of crazy that Ewan McGregor's coming back and Hayden Christensen's coming back. It's pretty wild. So I love Ewan McGregor. So anything that dude does, I'll watch it anyway. So
he seemed very, very oh shoot. Spider-Man. Can we spoil Spider-Man?
I guess spoiler warning for Spider-Man. If you don't want to hear it, fast forward like a minute.
It reminds me a little bit of how like Andrew Garfield got his comeuppance with this new movie. I feel like Ewan McGregor like kind of got the shaft with the prequels, and now he's like getting to like actually be the character that he signed up to be.
Oh, I totally agree. Spoilers off, guys. Yeah. Okay, but that's a really, really good comparison, honestly. Even Hayden's even almost an even better comparison. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
It's awesome to see him come back.
Yep.
So I'm excited. Yeah. It's been like the redemption like last few years of people like redeeming characters that were kind of undervalued by people and underutilized by the teams doing them. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's an exciting time. It's a very like I've said many times, we are very spoiled of what we've got. The fact that like, man, we have to wait like 6 months for anything Marvel. It's like crazy because that was normal. You know, like that was just a normal thing. We got 3 movies a year, maybe, and that was it. It's like now this year we got 4 movies and 5 series technically with What If. Like that's fucking crazy. That's insane that we've gotten that much shit this year. But next year will be a little less, but not much. I think 3 series and 3 shows. It's still a lot. It's still.
What are the Doctor Strange 2, Thor 4,
and then Black Panther.
Oh,
2.
Maybe if everybody comes back, like they Letitia Wright got hurt and maybe isn't getting. I could see them switching that in the Marvels, maybe. But I guess we'll see because I think the Marvels is done filming at least. So I don't know. If those 2 switch like release dates, I would not be surprised. But I really don't know because that one's the fall of next year. So it's like they've got like a year to figure it out either way. So we'll see. But then, it's She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, and Moon Knight are the series that have been confirmed for 2022. I'm unrealistically hyped for Thor 4 because Ragnarok might be my number 1 Marvel movie. I absolutely adore it.
It's a great movie. It's really
it's movie. Like just the movie that you can put on and rewatch it at any point because it's so funny and so fun to watch. Like, even like you're talking about Endgame and No Way Home, how it's you feel a certain way watching those movies. Like Ragnarok is just like, well, I just want to have fun, so I'm going to throw this thing on.
That's my only problem with Ragnarok is that there should be moments like that, and then they just kind of gloss over them, and I'm like, you just lost your best friends, your dad.
Yeah.
What? I mean, it's kind of all rectified in Infinity War with the moment of Thor and Rocket and shit like that. But they definitely gloss over a ton of like big emotional moments in that movie, which is my only qualm with that movie because I think that movie is a fucking blast. Like that movie is just it's in my top 10 of MCU, I think. So
there's a moment where Korg is like looking at all the different weapons, and it's like the wooden stake, and he's like, oh, this would be bad for like a group of vampires or something.
Oh yeah, he's like yeah, that this would be totally useless unless you stabbed it in a group of vampires or something like that. Yeah. Korg, man, he's the shit. I love Korg.
I love it.
But okay, Hawkeye season finale.
Focus.
No, we're good, man. We're good. We're riffing. That's all right. Yeah. So this episode kicks off right with the big man himself, Kingpin. Eleanor goes to meet Kingpin. It's revealed that her husband owed Kingpin money, and that's how she got into the criminal underworld. But she says now that Kate is getting too close, she wants to back out. Now, I loved seeing Vincent D'Onofrio pretty much just pick up right where he left off in the Daredevil series. He's talking the same. He's acting the same. It's really, really cool to see this. I can see if no one watched the Daredevil or no one has any idea who the fuck Kingpin is, it's kind of like the Kang stuff of it all, of Loki. You could be like, who the fuck is this guy? And I totally get it. But if you're a Daredevil like Netflix series fan, you're like, fuck yeah. We're just trucking along. We're just keeping going with what we've already seen, which is pretty fucking dope. I think the writers or the directors said that we would know if it was the same character from the Netflix series or if they're kind of carrying on. We didn't really get that answer, I don't think, but kind of, because they didn't but they can't reference the Netflix series. Like they can't reference them directly. They can't. They don't own it. Netflix owns it. But they can carry it on and just kind of, there's no reintroduction needed or, origin story needed. They kind of just are moving on with it. So I guess I can get that perspective from it where they're just kind of keeping going. And they did set it up kind of that, the husband died at the Battle of New York. The Battle of New York was the device that helped him kind of rise to power in the Netflix series. He kind of did the same thing Vulture did, where he profited off the wreckage and the weapons and shit like that. So I guess it kind of did canonize it in a way where it's, there's no multiverse shit. It's just the same character was always there. We just didn't really know about him. And obviously he existed in the blip because he's the one who had Ronan kill Maya's dad, which we learned last episode. So it's kind of just everything is moving forward. We're not really referencing any of the past. We're just kind of going. So I guess if you haven't seen the Netflix series, kind of sucks for you in a way. You just kind of have to dive into it and go with it, which a lot of shows do anyway. So I don't know if I love or hate that. I was stoked because I saw his, the menacing presence, him just seeming so pissed at whatever she's saying, the little eye twitch. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I noticed
he's
that
back.
too.
I was like, hell yeah. We love it. So yeah, what did you think of this first interaction here?
Yeah, I to be honest, I think it's a little bit of lazy writing. Even Kang in Loki, that you have to put yourself in the perspective of somebody who doesn't understand what's happening, and the show didn't necessarily do the best job of telling you who this guy was. If you take it at a surface level, he's the crime boss behind. They've been putting a breadcrumb trail for us to follow that he's the big guy, right. And he's kind of menacing, but I feel like they kind of never really paid off why Hawkeye was so worried for him to get involved, or why it was such a big deal for Wilson to have Hawkeye involved or an Avenger kind of paying attention to his operation. And honestly, that's my first thought is I just wish we had more time with him.
Yep.
Can we jump ahead to the end of the episode that he's not dead? There's no way
he's dead. Now I'll explain why later. Why he's not dead.
Yeah. So at least I'm operating under the assumption that he is definitely not dead, and then we'll get so much more of this character. That out of the way, Kingpin is just such a cool character. We talked about it last week that we grew up on the animated Spider-Man series where Kingpin was the main guy that was always fighting Spider-Man. And he was just this huge guy in this white trench coat or white suit and big, the staff with the diamond on the top. And I feel like we kind of got that. Later in the episode, you see him wearing his Hawaiian shirt, which pays homage to the Spider-Man arc. I don't if you Google Kingpin Hawaiian shirt. It's it's straight from a comic book cover and an episode and stuff, which I just really like it. I'm very interested to see what they do with the character, which I think comes back to then my complaint about this specific episode is I feel like I'm going to keep saying this over and over again, that I can't wait to see what else they do with this character. And that ties into Yelena and Echo. And that's maybe one of my gripes about the Marvel machine, is that they're often sacrificing moments in the present to set up the future.
Pay off later.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that because I trust their storytelling. But my general thing is like, okay, we just jumped right in, and then all of a sudden he's out of the picture. And I just wanted more Kingpin. Why was he in like a kind of janky office when we left him in Daredevil? Like, he had his penthouse, and you know, he had been to jail a couple times. And I I skipped through the finale of season 3 of Daredevil on Netflix, and him and Daredevil kind of come to a truce that Daredevil won't put Vanessa in jail. I think I might be a little foggy on this, and Wilson Fisk won't reveal that Daredevil is Matt Murdock. And that's kind of where they leave him, where he's like, he gets the crap beaten out of him. And so they just didn't even reference any of that. And so I'm still a little bit like uneasy on how I feel generally on what they did. Putting that aside, awesome. He's so sick, and I can't wait to see more of him.
Yeah, definitely to add to what you said, they definitely needed, I wish he got revealed earlier in the season, so we had more time with him and Maya, and more of just being like, oh yeah, he's been there her entire childhood, cool. But like, I wish we got some more flashback scenes, or like, even if they didn't, because obviously they can't reference the Netflix series, like I said, but if they said, hey, I was in jail, but now I'm kind of rising up because of the blip, and that's why I'm in this shitty fucking office, because I was in jail, now I'm building back up and shit like that, trying to keep a low profile because, you know, the blip's over and everyone came back, and, you know, trying to stay out of it, and you know, stay under the radar after getting out of jail. And like, I wish they explained more of that. That's like the one problem I have with this finale is the Kingpin and Maya stuff. Anything Kingpin or Maya related, everything else I think wraps up pretty nicely in a very good way, other than one little thing, but it's a very side thing. It's the stuff with Jack. It's just kind of weird. That I don't even have that much of a problem with. It's just, I felt like that character did not really need to be in the show at all. It wasn't really needed, other than the plot device of Eleanor using him, I guess, and kind of trying to push the blame on him instead. But his arc was very lackluster, but at the same time, he didn't really need to be there. And it's not like I had a complete problem with it, because what he did in this episode was pretty cool. But the big one I had is the Maya and Kingpin stuff. Because like, I wish we had more time with both of them interacting. Like, it would have been awesome if in episode 3 we saw them having a phone call with each other or a meeting with each other, and it kind of kept like you said, like the Marvel. The biggest thing with the Marvel series is there's always the mystery box. And at least most of the time, they even did with Falcon Winter. They had the power broker. So I was trying to think of Falcon Winter Soldier, but yeah, they did too. So why, like, they didn't need to do it with this one? They could have just, like, I get it, it's like building suspense and hype for the show, and you know, the rumors of Vincent D'Onofrio coming back. Like, I get it, but they could have done it in the middle, and then people would have been like, "Fuck, we get Kingpin for half the series? That's fucking insane!" Like, you know what I mean? Right. They could have easily done that.
I've been holding on to this one ever since we started talking about this. Falcon, okay, it's almost as if they have these ideas that are half-baked. And you go to Falcon and Winter Soldier. In the whole series, you're led to believe that America wouldn't accept a black Captain America, except they only give that to you in the finale. What if in Falcon and Winter Soldier, what if he becomes Captain America in the second episode, and then we're introduced to the Wyatt Russell character, as if he's taken the mantle of Captain America, and he's like, I am Captain America, and then they actually show us that the government says like, okay, yeah, but we're making our own Captain America because we don't want a black Captain America. And I feel like that tension in the show was like hypothetical instead of actually shown. And I feel like if they would maybe, instead of relying on that mystery box aspect of stuff a little bit less, that they could have created more tension. And it's exactly what you're saying. If Kingpin was in the second or third episode, there was so much more that they could have done with that character. And I could go on about the Falcon Winter Soldier stuff more. I just think it's like an interesting idea of like showing us a little bit more aggressively. Like, this is why Kingpin was scary. This is why that betrayal from Maya to Kingpin and Maya was that much more devastating. And a lot of that was just like told to us, like, oh, by the way, this is a really big deal. But we have no context for why it's a big deal.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's just, I wish we had more in even the end part with Maya and Kingpin, which we'll get to later. They could have saved that for the Echo series easily. They did not need that scene. And we'll get more into it later once we get to that point. But basically, we see this altercation, and Eleanor's like, I want out. Kate's getting too close. I don't want her to get hurt, which was kind of nice to see her care. And it's like an actual genuine care for her daughter's safety. I liked that. That was nice. And she walks out on him. Obviously, Kingpin is pissed, beyond pissed that this is happening. She also mentions that she has some dirt pretty much hidden to kind of expose everyone as her like fall safe if she ever wanted to get out. So there's that. Obviously, Kingpin's not happy. And then we see that Yelena somehow videotaped this with her spy shit in the corner and sent this video to Kate. Kate shows Clint. Clint is like, yeah, this isn't good. Like, Kingpin's not to be fucked with, basically. Like, this is going to end in a big bad way. So we got to get ahead of it. You know, he does say, you're my partner, your mess is my mess, which I thought was an awesome, awesome way to start this episode. It was very cool to see him accept it. And again, like, his big thing has been, I don't want this kid to get hurt. And the last partner I had, she died. I don't want her to die. You know, so him saying this is a very big deal. It's like, you know, it's an awesome moment. It needed to happen. I'm glad it happened. And then we go back to Maya and Kingpin's meeting with Kazi. Maya pretty much goes, hey, I'm over this whole Ronin shit. I'm moving past it. All good. Can I get a few days to clear my head? And Kingpin's like, that's reasonable. And then she leaves, and it's pretty much like, yeah, she's turning on us. Because obviously they had the meeting with Kazi, and she knows what the fuck happened, basically. So,
well, and that scene showed just purely the chemistry. I don't know if it's necessarily chemistry. I guess that maybe just Vincent D'Onofrio being like an excellent actor. Like, you could tell that he cared for her a lot, and so that's just something. Again, the show don't tell. Like, we were told we were told about this relationship. Even Hawkeye being like, "Oh, you don't want to mess with Kingpin." We were told we shouldn't mess with him. We weren't really shown why. But granted, you know, just knowing the Kingpin character, we kind of can fill in the gaps. But again, I would have liked more of Kingpin and Echo. Even Aliqua, is that how you say her name?
Oh yeah. Alaqua Cox.
Alaqua Cox. Like, she was excellent, and I feel like she actually got kind of shortchanged in this, because then she gets sidelined for most of the episode after this point. Yeah. And you start to question, and I'll reiterate what you said about Jackie Kane. It's like, was he necessary for this show? And I think sometimes these Marvel shows have a tendency to just like overfill the box with too many different toys. And it's like, maybe we could have, like, you know, saved some of these. Or what if we only had Echo in one episode and that was like the backdoor pilot to her show? Like, I would have been totally okay with that. Granted, she was awesome, and she, you know, does some really cool stuff later in the finale, the final conflict. But
yeah, I like her arc in this, because, you know, she gets to the bottom of Kingpin's the reason her father's dead, and the involvement with Ronin, and the whole moment last episode of the Ronin and her kind of being like, we're both weapons being used, I thought was very, very cool. And that's all cool. But I think some of these other moments that happened later in the episode weren't really needed. Like we've said before, it was kind of rushed in there. And I don't know if they were necessary to be in the show. That's like it's almost like opposite of what you're saying, in a way of some things didn't need to be wrapped up in this and could have been left for future things. And I think that would have been better instead of cramming them into one.
Yeah.
Again, the Jack stuff is an exact example of what you're saying. It didn't really need to happen. Like, all this stuff is kind of like, he was used as a plot device, but I'm sure another foil could have been made to kind of push that stuff to the side, but it is what it is. We got what we got. But then we see Kate and Clint riding the subway, and he pretty much says, we're going to need a whole lot of trick arrows. So we see this awesome scene of them building trick arrows. He brings us some Stark tech, which I don't think we saw the Stark tech used. Unless, oh no, I think we did. I think it was part of the explosion or one of the explosions, maybe.
Yeah.
Because one did kind of look like a reactor blast kind of thing. So maybe it was used. I don't know.
Where were they making these arrows? I could not figure out whose apartment they were in.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Because they were already at Grills.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the episode. Where did they go? That's a good question.
I think they made those at Grills' apartment. That was my guess, but I was like, oh dang, he's got like a whole, like maybe that's where they like built their costumes or something. I don't know.
It's a good question. I guess it's not completely necessary to know, but I didn't even think about it. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I rolled with it, but like up to that point in the show, there was never any implication that they had like a freaking arrow manufacturing place.
Right, unless they went back to the aunt's apartment and that's where he left the arrowheads. But I thought he just took them with him. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. If anybody knows the answer to that, maybe it's clear on a rewatch or something. I enjoyed that episode, like Kate having the label maker and labeling the one like very dangerous.
That was so
like,
good.
Yeah,
he actually labeled all of them to see like what they were and shit, which I thought was really funny and a good bookend to what happened in the car chase of them not knowing which one they were going to fire off. It was a nice touch. It was a nice touch and a very Kate thing to do. You know, she's like the younger kid, and that's like a very like YouTube girl thing to do. Which not saying she's like a YouTube girl, but like I could see someone like Kate like watching those videos and be like, oh yeah, I should label these dangerous arrows, right? You know, instead of my crafting materials, it's explosive.
Well, too,
arrows.
I mean, she's not used to this situation, so it would probably get very confusing to know which
good point.
Which arrows were which, and you're trying to like smoke gas somebody, but you accidentally exploded. You know, it was a bomb.
Yeah, that'd be a big mix-up. pretty big mix-up. This brings us to the Christmas party, the Eleanor security Christmas party. So they have the LARPers working there as like caterers, busboys, whatever. So they have them kind of there. It was like it felt very Ocean's 11-y, with them like on the comms and like working together. And then Jack's already out of jail, has a fucking sword on him because why not?
Yeah.
I did like that joke though. He's like, oh, he's out of jail and he's wearing a sword. So again, maybe he thought it'd be more obvious or be ironic or whatever they said.
Yeah.
I did think that was a funny line. But then we see Kazi. He's in a building across from it with his sniper rifle. And there's one thing I will say with Kazi. So his comic counterpart, he was also called the Clown, and he wore makeup, and he's terrifying in the comic. Like he's just like a hired mercenary, full on psycho. And they definitely downplay him a lot in this. But we get moments of that character in this episode and last episode a little bit when he was being the lookout with the sniper rifle. But he just gets taken out easily. But he's kind of like the bridge between Maya and everything like that. So I guess it kind of makes sense. But he's another character that's kind of underutilized in a way. And you never feel for this guy because he kind of just sucks. Like obviously he had a hand in Maya's father's death. He's trying to snipe Clint out. You don't feel bad for him, which I don't think you're supposed to. It's weird because the moment later on, the score kind of shows it to make like you're supposed to feel something for him. But I was like, everything you've told in this story is that he sucks. So it's like, why? You know what I mean? It's not even like, it's like, to bring it back to Falcon Winter Soldier, the Carly death, I believe it was supposed to hit more. And you can relate to her more because she was at least fighting for something that meant something. But at the same time, I was like, I don't really care, but I didn't totally hate her. It's just the storyline with her didn't really hit for me. So this is like completely different, It's just like, you don't care.
Yeah, he's another version of the Jack Duquesne character in the sense that like Maya's in her apartment and she sees this photo of her dad and Kazi, and it's supposed to, there's implied relationship and implied history, and then when it actually pays off, you're like, that's supposed to be a huge decision, I guess, on Maya's effort that she kills him and chooses to kind of like move past this road that she's taken.
Right.
But then at the end, you're like, yeah, cool. Like
of course you would.
But yeah, like
like why wouldn't she? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. But yeah, so Clint catches the sight of the sniper on one of the glasses, which I'm guessing champagne was in it or something of the sort, and kind of gets everyone down, and they start to kind of start evacuating people. And then Kate sees Yelena as she's kind of searching for her mom and talking to her mom, trying to make sure she's okay and kind of have a conversation with her, like, what the fuck were you doing with all this shit? You know, like, what are you doing working with the biggest crime boss in New York City? But then that's when all the shooting starts. And then she finds Yelena. And then I love the scene with Kate and Yelena in the elevator. So funny. I love their chemistry, and I can't wait to see more of it in the future because it's definitely happening. They're going to be like the new generation Hawkeye and Black Widow for fucking sure. It's very cool to see them go back and forth with each other. I love that they do the weird fights and like Elena's slapping her hand from hitting the different floors in the elevator, and then eventually she just hits all the floors. It's great. It's good stuff. I love it. Did you like the elevator scene?
Oh yeah, I mean, and that leads into the sequence where they're fighting through like the hallways and the offices and stuff. And I think we just got such a treat of getting Haley Stanfield as Kate. Like she just exudes confidence in the chemistry that she has with Florence Pugh. And then like, even the first episode, she goes to the party and she's wearing the suit, and now she's in this black dress, and she's like, playing into like the role a little bit more. And then Yelena shows up and she's got like her hair up in her whatever knot that is, and she's wearing the jacket. They try to take the jacket off and she says no. Like the whole lead up to that whole part was great, and it just builds into the chemistry that they have together, which just, I adored the line when she's like, stop making me like you, because she's like complimenting her like throws, and like they're complimenting like their kicks and stuff, and you just like smiling the whole time on that. So I think they've done a really good job, and obviously again I can't wait to see what they do with those two characters specifically moving forward, and just really exciting that they kind of struck gold on two actors in these roles.
100%. Two amazing young actresses that they landed. They're obviously going to be big roles in the future. Very, very smart to do. And there was some people that said they didn't like how it was so jokey with those two, and that when Yelena finally got to Clint, they didn't have the tension that she was actually going to kill him. But I kind of felt the opposite, because you could tell Yelena didn't want to hurt Kate. So she's kind of just being defensive. And you see the kind of mirror of it when Yelena and Clint face off. He's really just defending himself. He is not trying to fight her back. He's really just trying to not die, But as soon as Yelena faces off with Clint the multiple times in this episode, you're like, oh, fuck, she might come. Like, at least I thought so. I was like, you felt, even though it was two kind of tones happening at the same time, they melded together, because you're like, even when Kate's like, hey, let's go get a drink, and she's like, yeah, okay, sure, but after I kill Clint Barton, you believe that she was going to try and kill Clint Barton. So it was like she was joking with him, because she's like, I'm not trying to hurt this girl, even though I could easily take her out. It's just, I get why she's doing this, but that's not my mission. Clint is my mission, and she's not a trained, she's not like a brainwashed assassin anymore. She's an actual human being, and she's spent the last number of years freeing trained assassins. It's like, that's going to add more into the caring about other people, especially younger women who maybe not knowing what they're doing. She's like, yeah, you're following Clint, but you don't really know who he is and shit like that. It's like, I saw why she would act that way towards Kate and then act a completely different way towards Clint. I saw why they were kind of more playful.
Right.
With that
I'm absolutely okay with that, especially when, I mean, do people respond that way when Thor and Rocket are taking jabs at each other, or there's like a really serious fight scene and Rocket's asking Winter Soldier for his robot arm? Like, what's different? What's different about those?
Right.
Like, that's Marvel, and I don't know. I'm very okay with that. I think playing into Yelena's character is really a smart thing, that she is kind of just a kid, and like had her childhood obviously ripped away from her with the stuff with the Red Room, and even in the episode prior where she's talking about like going to New York and living out her like Sex in the City fantasy with Black or Natasha and stuff. I think that she wants this different life that she like can't quite have, and so I think she maybe is a self-defense mechanism that she uses humor. I don't know. I'm probably reading into it too much, but I think she tries to be like.
I think you nailed it, honestly. Like that probably is a self-defense mechanism. It's like the same thing with Kate's overconfidence. You know what I mean? She's trying to fight a trained assassin who's been training since they were a kid to kill people and trying to keep up with her. And obviously she can't. Like she does, hit a few moves in, but at the same time, Yelena's holding back completely, so it's
exactly.
It's funny to see that. As that's going on, Clint finds Kazi from the other side of the building, shoots over. This is an awesome shot of him shooting an arrow through the window where he is. And it's kind of this like purple gas. I'm guessing it's kind of like a tranquilizer gas or like a knockout gas, something of that nature. That was an awesome shot. And then we see Yelena jump out the window and scale the side of the building, which was another fucking awesome shot. Like the way the camera moved as she jumped out, it was fucking dope.
Yeah.
She tries to kill Clint, misses, of course, gets down to the ground and is pissed. And then Kate tries to scale the side of the building, does it way worse.
I love that.
Yeah, and then she slows herself down enough to do a superhero landing and land, which I don't think she would have landed that nicely, but it's a superhero movie. Who the fuck cares?
I think she broke at least what I think she broke one of her legs when she landed.
And probably her wrist, something, she probably would have shattered some bones there, but it's all right. Then Kate is met by a ton of tracksuit mafias on the ground and takes out a few of them, but then Jack comes to the rescue with a sword, which this part was fun to me. Mm-hmm. But again, really wasn't necessary for Jack to be here. But it was fun. I had fun. I was like, okay. He is kind of just a good guy. You know what I mean? He got played. Whatever.
I love that Tony Dalton. I love that Tony Dalton gets this mainstream role again. Watch Better Call Saul. He's phenomenal in that. We got some really cool Jack McCain moments. Just him like messing up his references, singing the song, dancing with Eleanor, making fun of his nephew for peeing his pants or whatever in the Hamptons was a great line.
That was funny.
And yeah, I think that there's something still slightly sinister about him. There's something going on that they're connected. Because again, you said last week he was at that black market auction. Like there's something there, but you could kind of see the joy in his eyes that he like got to fight and use his sword. It was just like, again, not to downplay like the violence, but he was like definitely stabbing people.
Like he even makes a joke later. I got blood on my tie. Like you don't get blood in your tie from being nice with a sword,
No. So I enjoyed that moment. Overall, I thought the character was a little bit of a waste, but he was. I guess in hindsight, he was used as more of a red herring and then comic relief, and I'm fine with that.
Right. And then even when Kate's down there fighting some of the Tracksuit Mafias, the one that had the Imagine Dragons concert problem earlier in episode 3, thanks them and said, we actually went and saw Maroon 5 together, which I thought was really funny. And then she just knocks him out. It was good stuff. Up still in the building. Clint faces off with Kazi, and Clint just pretty much beats his ass, hits him with a German suplex, which was tight. Then Clint jumps out of the window, and the cord breaks, and then he ends up in the middle of the tree, the huge ass Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center, and then sees an owl, which the owl is important. We'll talk about the owl later. Which I thought was really cute, just seeing the owl. I was like, oh, a little owl. After that, the LARPers come out full in gear, and somehow that makes people listen to them better. And they take out, like, the big guy takes out a person by chest bumping him.
I'm so sorry to say that I did not like the LARPers in this episode. Like, that's just like the one thing that I was like, I'm over these characters, especially since they're implied to be first responders, police officers, firefighters, and all this stuff. And they were just like not handling that situation well. I wasn't okay with that. I'm sorry. I know, like, again, we're just trying to enjoy this, but them coming out in their as a suits, and whatever they did, that's just time that was wasted from Kingpin and Echo and Yelena, different stuff like that. So I was like not feeling those scenes. But.
Yeah, that scene was definitely a little silly to me and unneeded, but I liked them being up there helping them. Like during the whole the dinner party, that part I liked. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. They're kind of undercover and helping out and shit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they came out in the LARP outfits, I was like, I mean, that wasn't really needed.
No.
And then Clint laughs and says, "We're all gonna die," which I like that. That was nice. Then Kate takes down the tree with an acid arrow and takes out the restraints, the restraining wires, and everything like that. This actually looked really dope with the tree coming down. I thought that looked awesome. I was wondering if it was they actually did that or not. I'd be very interested to know if that was VFX or they actually took down that tree. It'd be kind of dope if they actually took it down.
Yeah,
we'll never know.
I think
maybe we will know.
This show did a good job playing around with the Christmas theme and even just like sprinkling in Christmas songs and stuff, and then setting that during Christmas time in Rockefeller Center with the tree. Like obviously, I saw somebody a review say that it tied into her knocking the bell down at her school. In the pilot episode that she that it pays off that she knocks down this
finally
massive landmark in New York City.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
They're like, cool. What do we? Can we get another 50-foot or whatever size tree tomorrow? It says it's in stock somewhere.
True. That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That they'd probably have to find a way to replace it or just leave it, I guess.
Yeah.
Now they're in the ice rink. This is where shit goes fucking down pretty much. So Kate slides in with the save to hit a bunch of smokescreen arrows, and now I was talking to my friend with this earlier today actually, but they've already set up the Tracksuit Mafia are very easy to get past. They're fucking idiots. They're not well trained in fighting or anything like that. They're easy to take out, but what they have is numbers. It's like the stormtrooper.
Yeah.
There's only a certain point where a couple people can take on a bunch of people. But they played into that really well, and that's why you see a ton of them come in. That's where you kind of feel like, oh shit, they might be fucked. There's so many of these motherfuckers. What are they gonna do? But then this is when they just start firing off every fucking trick arrow you can ever imagine. Some you would never think of in your life. There's a flare arrow that might have been the repulsor one because it's it was a blinding yellowish white light. An arrow that spins and shoots needles at a bunch of people like a porcupine shooting out fucking needles. There's an arrow similar to that shoots out tranq darts and knocks people out. An arrow that shoots out orange gas. An inflatable arrow, poof, that blew it up. And then to top it all off, a trusted bow truck just drives straight into the rink, and Kate hits it with another Pimtech arrow that shrinks it down to matchbox car size, which I thought was hilarious. Eric Voss from New Rockstars said it was disturbing, which I was like, I think you're taking this a little too serious, man, but whatever. He was like, yeah, man, it was really disturbing. And I was like, it's a TV show, bro. This isn't fucking real. And then, of course, the owl comes, swipes up those dudes, and they're probably dead. They probably got killed by that owl.
Oh, yeah, those guys are for sure dead.
And then, but there was a nice note at the end of it where Kate goes, "What happens to these guys?" And then
and he's like, "I don't know.
I guess I'll have to ask Scott." Which I was like, "Oh, awesome!" So he got these from Scott, not even from Hank. Which I'm sure Hank made them, but it's funny he got them from Scott, which is a nice little callback to their teamwork in Civil War.
Well, I appreciate the fact that they don't quite understand how the other Avengers science works. Let's just say it that way. He's like, I have these shrinking. Well, he had one that made the arrow bigger, and now this is one that shrink one, and he doesn't really understand how it works.
Yeah.
I was side-eyeing the owl when Hawkeye ends up in the tree. I was like, okay, this is a cute moment. People are gonna freak out about this, but what's the point of this owl? And then coming down and taking the guys, you're like, okay, that's a clever payoff to this.
Yeah, that's why I was like, why is there an owl? I was like, yeah, it's cute. I thought the same thing too. I was like, but why? And then I was like, oh, okay, because I was trying to think of is this owl gonna tie into something weird?
Right.
I was like, it would have been kind of funnier if it was an actual hawk, but
sure,
it's all right.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that. That fight scene was good, and you called it, man. From the beginning of this, you've said that they've always had numbers, and I thought that they did a good job showing, like, okay, there's a ton of these guys, and again, a great nod to Star Wars. You called it too with stormtroopers, like terrible aim. Like there's like no way that they should have survived that. They had like barely any cover, and the guys just kind of kept rushing them. And I don't know if they've like quite explained how excellent of a marksman Clint is, but like his like no look shots from behind and all this kind of stuff. Like that was just a fun sequence. I really enjoyed the sequence from Kate and Yelena fighting, going down the building into the ice rink. I thought that whole sequence was really good.
That part was fucking dope. I loved that whole sequence. This is where the finale really shined for me. Is pretty much this ice rink moment. It's like everything that happens in the ice rink and like right before is where this episode really shined for me.
That's because it was Clint and Kate, and that was like the core of the show, and that was them like finally working together. They're in their costumes.
Yep. Oh yeah. The reveal of Clint wearing the costume was nice.
Yeah, and just doing something that they're like both excellent in, and I think that's basically the moment that the show kind of built towards, which and obviously then following that up with Yelena. But I thought that was a really good sequence and fun.
Yeah, totally agree. And then after they take out the tracksuits, Clint tells Kate to go find her mom. Maya faces off with Kazi, which kind of we talked about. She ends up killing him. He kind of has this big freak out with like, this life was never supposed to be yours. It was mine, blah, blah, blah. And again, it was like, yeah, you're dead. I don't care because you kind of sucked. Like you were terrible to your closest friend. Like you helped kill her fucking dad.
Yeah.
You suck.
Shout out to Maya for using her motorcycle as a battering ram. That was sick.
Yeah, that was pretty tight. that was like a Black Widow move, honestly.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then we get Yelena versus Clint. So Yelena tackles Clint on the ice. I'm gonna go to the Kingpin stuff next, and then I'll go back to the Yelena and Clint stuff. So Kingpin shows back up, finds Eleanor. She gets into her car, finds out her driver is dead, and then Kingpin rips the fucking door off the hinges and just comes out in like full comic book glory of him in the hat and the Lion shirt and everything like that. And then Kate comes, is the hero to rescue her mom, says, don't mess with my mom. And as Kate's kind of distracting her, Eleanor fucking hits him with a car in through the storefront, which doesn't even phase him.
She shoots him, man. She shoots him with an arrow.
And he just kind of knocks it off with the cane, which I'm wondering if he has the same like bulletproof kind of like suits like he did in the Netflix shows. Because he kind of just was like, whatever, it's not like he didn't even actually got impaled. He was kind of just like, whatever, don't care.
I'm very okay with him having some sort of like implied superhero strength, like ripping the door off and stuff. Like I was totally okay with that. I know I did see some criticism that people were wondering like what his powers are, how strong he is and stuff, but I'm very much okay with him being just like kind of this like very otherworldly Hulk beast kind of character. And almost like a little bit of a like untrained kind of sloppy fighter, but he's so strong that it doesn't really matter. Like even what he was doing with Kate later is just basically knocking her across the
just throwing her around like a rag doll, basically. So he gets hit with a car, goes into the storefront, just kind of gets back up. I do like you said, they made him a fucking monster, and I do like that because people watching this who have nothing to know with Kingpin, you're like, whoa, what the fuck is this guy? Like this guy, this is the kind of show that we kind of wanted more so earlier on with the episode of like, okay, I get why you don't want to fuck with him. He just got hit by a car and got back up. He's throwing Kate around like she's nothing, basically. He just flicked an arrow off his chest like it was no fucking big deal. And like you said, the kind of the fight between Kate and Kingpin is really just Kingpin throwing her around. And I will say the action with Kingpin was a little clunky in this, a little bit. But I do like that they showed his strength and how massive his strength was. I like that a lot. If they ever explain it to where he has some sort of enhancement or something, I don't really know. I don't really care, honestly. I do like that they made him a fucking animal.
He's a bully.
Yeah. And like you said before of how Kingpin isn't dead, they kind of show you of like, this dude's not going to go down very easy. He gets hit by a car, and then he snaps all of Kate's arrows just with his fucking hands, like just like nothing. And then as she's laying on the ground, she got one of his cufflinks and does the coin trick and hits all the arrows together and does this major explosion, which also he survives from. So they kind of already set up that like, there's no way this dude's going to die. Like this dude can withstand a ton of shit and it doesn't matter. So even if there wasn't what I'm about to explain when we get to that stuff, you should kind of be aware that that dude's not going to die easy, especially if they didn't show him dying. Like if he was actually going to die, I think they would have showed him dead. But now we kind of get to the part which is like my favorite part of the finale. It's this Elena and Clint face off. So much like how Yelena was with Kate, Clint is with Yelena. He's kind of just playing the defense. He's not trying to inflict any damage onto her. She kind of just straight up goes, you need to tell me what happened with Natasha. Clint's like, she sacrificed herself. Even if I told you what happened, you wouldn't believe me, which is exactly what we talked about last episode. I was like, thank you.
Exactly.
It's like I thought that too, and I was like, exactly. Like, there's no way she would be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Yelena does not believe him, sorry, and just keeps wailing on him. She breaks out the fucking Black Widow baton, starts beating him with it. And as he's laying there on the ground, knowing like, hey, this is getting very bad, she's not going to quit. Clint hits her with the whistle that started and ended the Black Widow movie. So I guess if you haven't seen Black Widow, this scene probably did not hit for you at all, but you'd kind of be like, who the fuck is Yelena? So I would assume you probably have seen it. If not, it's on Disney Plus. Go watch it. It's a fun movie. It's not the best, but it's very fun. And Yelena is amazing in it. So if you want more Yelena, check out Black Widow. But this is the way Natasha and Elena used to communicate with each other when they were kids, but then they bookend it in the end with the same whistle. And Yelena is like obviously taken back by this. Like, how would you know that? How would you know that she did that? And he kind of just says, she always loved you. And she always just wanted to know you were okay. And then he said, she sacrificed herself. She was better than me. There was nothing I could do. Believe me, I tried. She says, if I was there, I could have saved her. It could have gone down different. And Clint's just like, Natasha, that wouldn't have happened. She's the most stubborn person we've ever met. And then you see her kind of accept it and realize, I get it. I get what she did. And I have to say that this conversation and this conclusion between these two characters makes Endgame hit even harder than it already did. Because Natasha, if you see her in the blip, obviously she knows that her sister is gone. They know everyone else that's gone. She knows her sister is gone. So her being in that like really down position when she's kind of like running Avengers headquarters makes that hit harder. And it also makes her hit harder to fight for her sacrificing herself because she wanted to bring Yelena back. Just like how she wanted to bring Clint's family back and everyone else back, she wanted to bring her sister back. And that is so cool that it adds more to an even more impactful movie. You know what I mean? It just adds that much more weight. And that's what we talked about before. What Marvel does best is making things retroactively better, which is awesome. And I love that they did that for Natasha's arc specifically in Endgame. Makes it feel that much more impactful. I love that.
Well, you get the idea too. Like, I don't know if this is true because I don't want to try to read too much into it. You kind of got the feeling that Yelena didn't want to kill Clint.
She saw that something was up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's honestly one of my movie storytelling gripes. Is like, if you're gonna try to kill somebody, just like pull the trigger instead of like asking them questions and stuff. And obviously that happens over and over where the villain has
like
to like
any
tell
movie,
their story. Yeah, whatever. Like I hate that. And it's like, well, just kill this guy. Like, that was your job and you want revenge on your sister. But I think because she kind of like was just hitting him with the Black Widow staff and stuff, I don't think that she wanted to kill him. And then the line of that it's not fair that he got to spend so much time with her.
Yeah.
And that hits because like they loved each other as sisters, and I think that's like where that's the emotional core of why she was frustrated in this situation, because she feels like Clint got something with Natasha that she
didn't.
robbed of. And I think that they paid that off really well. I like that scene. I thought it was clutch, just in the payoff and whatnot. I wanted more, and that's where I feel very selfish, because that's like I think that it was so crammed into the final kind of 20 minutes of the episode that I wanted there to maybe be a little bit more space for those emotions to kind of come through, which I think they did it wonderfully. And obviously Jeremy Renner has done such a good job in the show. And then Florence Pugh, again, just to keep singing their praises, like did a really good job where you could kind of feel like Clint feels so sorry for this kind of this truth that he has to tell Yelena. And then the fact that, like, you know, we had questioned if Clint knew about her family and all that kind of stuff. And like, that just shows that he knew it all. And they were everything. Like really, truly good friends, and knew how much Natasha cared for her family and all that kind of stuff. Like, just, she really shows in those moments. And I would suspect that that's not the last that we've seen of Yelena, Clint, obviously Kate kind of interacting. And again, it just goes back to what we keep saying is like, that's like exciting because we'll see more of them, but also disappointing because I want more now.
And I guess there was another note I forgot to mention from that interaction when she kind of goes, you got so much time with her, and he goes, she made a choice and we got to learn to live with it. And then Yelena goes, I loved her so much, and Clint saying, me too. And they have that nice moment where they kind of like, you know, he grabs her hand and helps him up, and that was really nice. It was a good conclusion to that arc, which I really liked. Like that whole conclusion, I was insanely satisfied with. Pretty much like the whole Kate and Clint of it all, from them becoming basically strangers to family members by the end of this, and you know, Yelena and Kate's kind of friendship starting, and then the whole conclusion, and kind of it was like a nice funeral moment for Natasha too, of this happening, with this conclusion between Yelena and Clint. It was really, really well done. And now here's a conclusion that wasn't well done. Maya and Kingpin. Maya confronts Kingpin, pulls up in a trusted bro truck. We see that Kingpin is just, you know, he looks a little battered, but you know, for getting hit by a car and blown up by like 10 arrows, trick arrows, he's doing pretty good, I would say, for any other person. And he tries to reason with her, and there's even a line where he says, before we hear this gunshot that she takes off, sometimes family doesn't see eye to eye. Now, for some people, you may think that Kingpin has been wasted. Oh, no. Wait for this Echo series. I'm sure he's going to be a very, very big part. So in the comics, something similar to this happens. Maya finds out that Kingpin actually kills... Oh. Austin just dropped an AirPod.
I'm falling apart.
Oh no. But Kingpin killed her father directly, like actually killed him. In this, it was more of she hired Ronan to kill him. Still just as shitty. But so once Maya finds this out, she seeks revenge and does shoot Kingpin. And that leaves him blinded. In which that is what I think they're leading to. Now, I do think this scene did not need to happen. It could have been the thing of what I was saying to earlier, where they could have let this breathe, and this could have even been the conclusion to the Echo series. She's kind of like battling with Kingpin the whole time. Daredevil comes in, tries to help her, shit like that. Because I'm very certain that Daredevil is going to play a big role in the Echo series as well. Just my hunch. It would just make sense, especially with Kingpin being involved and it being New York City. It would make perfect sense. So the big guy is not out of here. He's not dead. There's no way. They don't show, if he was dead, they would have showed the body. That's how it always is in any of these things. Or they would have showed him. I do wish we kind of got like a stinger scene or an end credit scene of him with like bandages over his eyes or something to just kind of allude to people, so they're not just like, oh, they wasted Kingpin. Now, obviously, there's a million shows or a million articles or a million YouTube channels that are probably saying the same thing I'm saying, that like, hey, he's going to come back. He's probably just going to be blinded like how they did in the comics, which is cool. But I felt like this, again, we've kind of said this through this whole episode, the whole Maya and Kingpin of it all was kind of squished too short.
I think that's my critique for most of this episode. Everything that we wanted payoff for, we got it for the most part. It was just squeezed into it. And at some point, just like you said, it needed to breathe a little bit more. And Marvel doesn't make bad decisions. And if they were to have saved Kingpin, Wilson Fisk from the trash pile of the Netflix shows to bring him into the MCU, they're not going to waste him on 5 minutes of screen time in a finale on a TV show. Like, obviously they're going to set him up for something bigger. And maybe we're wrong. Like, I really don't think we are.
I don't think so.
No, they're just not going to waste that opportunity to bring somebody like Kingpin into the MCU and waste him like that, because that did feel like a waste. And even just the resolution to that story, I mean, I'm curious, like, did she shoot him in the torso or maybe like the knees or something, or maybe she just fired it up like Point Break, and Keanu's like shooting the gun in the air, you know?
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe that's where the Echo series starts. Like, maybe we get to see that scene in the first episode of the Echo series, and then the Echo series starts just right from there. Which, okay, that would be cool. Then yes, very much. Like, I'm okay with that scene and how it works, and I think we want to see the resolution of what happened in that. And I don't know. I was not happy with that sequence.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah.
What just happened? You know, it was kind of like one of those things. And so, and then another thing too, when Kate goes and kind of consoles Eleanor, she gets arrested because she's now been revealed that she killed Armand III, and she was really the head of Sloan and everything like that. And I do like the line. Obviously, she was not Madame Mask in this series, but the line that says, that Eleanor says, "Oh, this is what you do to your mother on Christmas." I think she might turn into Madame Mask maybe in the future, maybe not, but they kind of left it open to where now she kind of has this vendetta against her daughter because she tried to protect her and make sure she was never poor and she couldn't handle it and all this shit like that. She had a very clouded judgment of when she really did care about her daughter. She kind of tried to justify all the shitty stuff she did just to be like, I did it for my daughter. You know, it was very terrible reasoning, but like you can understand it. Like, you can see her point of view. Like, yeah, I was really just trying to provide for my daughter, but the means did not justify the ends in that situation.
No, well, sure. I was pleased with the fact that she ended up being generally like a good person. Obviously, she's made some like bad decisions and stuff, but she cared for Kate. And I was saying that like last week, like I hope she doesn't end up just being like a total bitch in this whole situation. And she had like ended up being like, okay, I cared for you. Like, I made these choices so that we could have like a good life. And that even goes back to the first interaction with Eleanor and Kingpin when he's like, you profited very well from this business agreement. You know, it's not like she struggled and obviously they had like a good life, and Kate got to do like a lot of cool things because of Eleanor.
Of course.
We were maybe wrong, like that she was grooming Kate to become part of the Empire or whatever.
Seems like that.
I'm curious about that because they still hinted at that in the opening sequence when Eleanor was kind of like the training sequence that was in the credits, the opening credits. Like, Eleanor was like always right there, and I thought that they maybe could have done something a little cooler with like that Eleanor did have her hands in curating what Kate became, and they didn't really pay that off either. I think, I don't know, man. I think that they just kind of wasted Vera Farmiga, and like there was like some really high highs in what they were able to do with the show, but then some of the stuff that they like paid off. And I hinted at it earlier. I think maybe this series could have benefited from another episode or two, maybe 8 episodes, and kind of let things breathe a little bit. Which I think I'd rather have. I think I'd rather have the series be shorter than the Netflix like 11 episodes where stuff just starts to drag on, and you have so many B, C, D plots that don't even matter. But yeah, definitely feel like you get to the end of this and you're like, okay, like, yeah, they paid everything off, but they just had to really sprint to the end because they had to squeeze like all this stuff in there.
Yeah, I agree. I would like that too. If they just make it like 7 or 8 episodes, it's not that much longer. Or make every episode like an hour long. I think that would probably get to the same length because some ended up being like a half hour, some ended up being like 40 minutes. This one was like with credits, it was probably like a little less than an hour and everything like that.
Oh,
so it's like,
dude, don't even get me started about that. We're like, oh my gosh, this episode's going to be an hour long. And it's like, oh, it's because it's got 7 minutes of credits at the end of these things.
I mean, it was like 50 minutes. This one was close enough. It's not like a Marvel movie when the credits are like literally 10 minutes long. You know what I mean?
I know.
They're only a few minutes long. But yeah, like if everyone was everything was kind of this length, I think it would play a lot better because with the Netflix shows, like I'm pretty sure every episode length is probably the same. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like I get you kind of want to. They ended all at really good points. Like in this series, they did a very good job of ending them at really good points to make you like, fuck, I can't wait for next week, which is like the point of TV. They did that very well. But they could have added some more stuff in between there that would have kind of helped pay off the end or let the end breathe a lot more than squishing it all into one thing, for sure. I definitely agree there.
They end up being about 3 times the length of a typical Marvel movie. I think I saw somebody like the total time, if it's like 6 hours or 5.5 hours, it ends up being about 2 times to 3 times as long as a normal movie, which I think this WandaVision ended up being like one, like you could see that being like one movie. This definitely felt episodic and stuff. And I think that's like what we're going back to where they're learning how to tell these stories and learn how to make a TV show. I think that this was like the closest that they've gotten, which, we can eventually talk about where this ranks in our stuff, but we have to resolve these stories real quick.
So it ends with them pulling up to the Barton household in Missouri on Christmas Day. They fucking made it, man. And Kate is along the ride with her dog, Lucky. They paid that off. So yes, it is Lucky the pizza dog, like from the comics. That was cool. They all seem very warm to. It seems like Kate's just a member of the family now. She's living with the Bartons, their partners, family. It's like a new daughter, which is funny because I saw someone make a point that she'll know more about Clint's life than his actual kids.
Sure.
Because she's like her partner and everything like that. But then we see Clint give the Rolex to Laura, which had the SHIELD logo and a number 19, which stands for Agent 19, which went by the code name Mockingbird, which a lot of people theorized a couple episodes ago. So Laura Barton was Mockingbird and a SHIELD agent, which is pretty cool. Though I am kind of confused to how someone seeing that would have kind of given her away her secret, because all of the SHIELD info is kind of common knowledge from Winter Soldier. Unless somehow they hid that, I don't really know how that could have let anything out. But I don't know. Unless she was just called Agent 19, I don't really know. I don't know how they could have linked the two together.
Yeah, the watch was stupid. Like,
like it was a cool Easter egg or whatever, but I don't get how that kept her secret safe. Personally.
Also, why did the Tracksuit Mafia want that watch? Like, that's why they broke into the.
I don't know.
That's why they broke into the auction, and that's where the MacGuffin type of thing gets you in trouble, because that was the MacGuffin that just like didn't matter. Like, I don't know. I thought that was pretty dumb. Now, I'm not upset that she was Mockingbird Agent 19. I guess if you watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., maybe you have a better take on that. That there was Mockingbird in that, but I'm not mad about that. I guess there's a lot of people that are pretty pissed that ended up being the reveal, but I'm fine with it. I'm okay with her being a SHIELD agent, which explains why she was just so chill, like through this whole part, and she wants to protect her family and all that kind of stuff. I just think the watch was like not necessary at all.
not really. It ended up kind of being like what I theorized of somehow it revealed that it was someone's secret, but I just don't get how it would have kept it a secret. That's my only thing, which is fine. And also Mockingbird could be like a mantle that she was Mockingbird decades ago. Before she had her kids, and now the one that we saw in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the new Mockingbird that had the actual name from the comics. Like, we don't fucking know. We don't need Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't even really canon, so who gives a fuck anyway? But we could see a new Mockingbird running around when Secret Invasion comes around or something like that. Like we
Yeah.
could. We don't know. But then the series ends with Kate and Clint, with Kate trying to come up with a new nickname, a superhero name for herself. My favorite one was when she said Lady Arrow, which had to have been a dig at Arrow, the DC character who is Hawkeye. They're the same fucking character, basically. Well, he's like, I guess he's like a rich Hawkeye, but what? It's like Batman Hawkeye. They're Batman and Hawkeye went together. I love Arrow, so it's not me talking shit, but they're the very similar characters. And then I
want to question. I want to question why he chose to burn his
the Ronin suit
in his smoker. Like, I feel like that leather just like totally screwed up his barbecue. Yeah, like.
That's a good point. That is a good point. But it ends with Clint saying, "Hey, I think I have an idea," and in the Invincible style title card, instead of him saying it, it just says Hawkeye, which is awesome. They're both Hawkeye. That's it.
Yes.
That's why I saw some people being like, I heard someone actually, shout out to the Geek Peak Pod. I have this vendetta with one of the co-hosts, Trent, that he doesn't really know about, but Chris, who actually is going to be my co-host for the Boba Fett show, he knows about because I tell him about it. But he said something, he's like, I hate how this show isn't about Hawkeye. And I'm like, I told him, I was like, do you want to break it to him that they're both called Hawkeye?
Yeah.
Do you want to break that to him?
That's something that I feel like people hold on to like too tightly. Like, there's like 100 Black Widows.
Yes,
like maybe literally. More. Yeah. Like, yeah, I don't think that really matters. And at some point in the MCU, it's like that's Kate Bishop more importantly than Hawkeye.
Exactly.
Dude, yeah. Overall, I really love this show, and
me too.
I am really excited for you to see Matrix Resurrections because there is a post-credits stinger that reminded me a lot of this Hawkeye one, where it was just a total left field, like, what the heck am I watching?
Oh, no. So, yeah, I know a lot of people are pissed about this mid-credit scene, and my friend fucking tricked me because he's like, yo, this is the longest mid-credit scene we've ever gotten. It's fucking insane. And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, what is it going to be? And then you see the Rogers the Musical thing, and then they just give us the whole song, which I thought was hilarious. I saw some people, especially in the group, being really pissed about it. I thought it was really funny. They don't really have anything to lead into because I think the next thing is Doctor Strange. And if you didn't see Spider-Man No Way Home, it was the second after credit scene, but we got the teaser online for everyone if you haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen it, it's up there on YouTube. It's fucking awesome. This movie looks fucking crazy.
Yeah. America, that's America. Oh shoot, what's
America Chavez?
Yep. America Chavez, Ghost Rider, Evil Doctor Strange, Normal Doctor Strange, Morta, Dorma, or what? Like all the different characters that we get, and that's just gonna be bonkers. So,
there's some rumors I've heard about that movie, and if they are true, this movie is gonna be crazier than any of you think.
Tell me. I don't know what they are. So
I'll tell you off air.
Yeah. I don't get angry about stuff, and so I kind of just am ambivalent towards the mid-credit stinger. I didn't need the song. I didn't need that, and I think I was just cut. Yeah, I just got to the end, and I was like already kind of like bumming off the finale in general. Like watching it, I was just kind of like let down, and then for that to be the mid-credit stinger, I was just like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Yeah, I mean, overall, I really liked the finale because the stuff I really wanted got wrapped up in a very, very emotional, good way for me. It's just the Kingpin stuff. I wish that breathed a lot more and we got more of it and stuff like that, which I'm sure we're going to get in the Echo series. So they can kind of rectify it in that, I guess. But it's like we said through this whole thing. I definitely wasn't like I saw a lot of people are pretty divisive, like half and half on this finale. Like, oh, I really liked it. Oh, I really didn't like it. I'm in the camp of I really liked it. I didn't think it was the perfect finale. Like I said earlier, I think Loki was a way better finale to me personally, or even WandaVision was kind of a better finale. But this one hit an emotional moment just like WandaVision did. So it's kind of like, and the Falcon Winter Soldier was a good finale, but it was only because the lows were really low, but the highs were so high. Like pretty much all of the Sam as Captain America stuff was so fucking cool that anything I was upset about didn't matter. But still, it's hard to judge that show too, because I know COVID changed a lot of the show, so it's kind of hard to like even judge it, because a lot of their stuff wasn't even their fault, and they kind of just had to work with what they had, which sucks, but it is what it is. But yeah, I think this might be my favorite. It's kind of hard to judge, like I was talking about earlier with Loki and even WandaVision. I kind of am leaning towards Loki over WandaVision, and this one a little bit over Loki, because I think overall the series just kind of nailed it. But with Loki, I liked the whole series, but the finale like really like kind of nailed it. So it's kind of hard to pick which one I would kind of do as a favorite. Like I said, I kind of need to like rewatch a bunch of shit and kind of reassess my ranking of the MCU. But Phase 4 has been very awesome for me personally. I know a lot of people have been down on certain things. Like a lot of people didn't like Black Widow. People didn't like Eternals. Whatever. It is what it is. I enjoyed them all for what they were. There was just ones I enjoyed a whole lot more than those. But yeah, I thought Hawkeye was great.
The finale. So we're split 50-50.
Yeah, we are split. Yeah.
Like I didn't like it. However, the show overall was great. So
yeah,
like I was very disappointed that they rushed so many things that they had worked pretty diligently to pay off, and I just felt like we got the payoff, and it was just too quick. And so you talking about these, I think, oh man, this is gonna be a little bit of a hot take. Like Loki's my favorite of the shows, but I think that's primarily because that dipped its toes into like the sci-fi, and I'm like a huge sci-fi guy. So this was more of like a buddy comedy, which comedies end up being kind of, I'm not like a real big comedy guy. And so you then play into the different genres that I personally enjoy, and Loki being kind of like strange and bizarre sci-fi, like very much is in my wheelhouse. And obviously getting the episode with like the different Lokis and stuff was so sick. Sylvie was such a dope character. And then obviously the He Who Remains reveal tying into Kang and freaking, I'm blanking on his name, but the actor who plays He Who Remains was like just freaking
Jonathan Majors.
Like Jonathan Majors was just like eating up the scenery, which was so exhilarating to watch. And then I'll probably put WandaVision as my second favorite, but because that hit that leftovers thing where I want like trauma and sadness and grief mixed with sci-fi, and that's what kind of WandaVision hit for me. But all that to say, that's just my personal preference. I think that Hawkeye was the best show that they've done so far. I think it was the best, but not my favorite.
That's fair. I mean, that's totally fair statement. It's weird. Like I said, I'm kind of fighting with it. Those three were just like very well done shows to me, either of what they told or how it was structured. Yeah, like that's the reason why I like Loki so much, because it was like a weirdo sci-fi show. Like I loved seeing that kind of vibe in the MCU, which we got more of in Eternals. I feel like Loki did it a little better than Eternals, but that's just my personal opinion. I liked Eternals. I just didn't love it. I loved Loki. I thought Loki was very well done. But yeah, man, and this is
I feel exactly about how Eternals. I feel exactly about same way Matrix Resurrection. It's like I think I kind of dug it, but there's some stuff that missed. It was a little bit long and like a little too grandiose. Like, but then at the same time, you like applaud something for taking a chance. Interesting. Sorry, I'm processing my emotions live on the podcast.
Oh man, you're good. This is what this is all about, man. But seriously, dude, thank you so much for being my co-host in this Christmas Hawkeye adventure. It was a blast. I'm glad to have you back on. You'll definitely be back on in the future at some point. There's no shortage of pop culture stuff that's happening at all times, and I'm sure we will continue our conversations through messages about the new shit we're watching now after this. That's what I like about this stuff. You kind of connect more with a person, and then you kind of just keep talking to them.
Sure.
I love it.
No, I love that too. But also, like, shout out to the Discord for keeping spoilers kind of clear for a little bit of time. Like, I think everybody did a good job for Spider-Man. Like, if you want spoilers, go to Discord, but keep out of the Facebook group and all that kind of stuff. And so, if you want part of the conversation, I think that we've done a good job of like kind of keeping things going in for this show, and we're gonna keep building because Sean's gonna get that Hulu credential one of these days. He's gonna take over the world.
I'm gonna get that Hulu credential, damn it! And one day I'll get some screeners of some MCU shows. One day.
Let's go. Yeah, this was fun. Great show. And like I said, the journey to this point, just the way that they told this story and getting to talk about it every single week was really fun. And yeah, I hope people enjoyed these episodes and hope they had a good time watching the show and listening. And then hope everybody has a good Christmas and New Year's and stuff. Let's go, Boba Fett.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. And until next time, see you later, nerds.
Peace out.